All right, it's cook-off day. It's cook-off day. I'm going up against Candace, head-to-head, vegan cook-off. What you got for us, Whitney?
Hey, it's Whitney from ecovegangal.com, and as your judge, I've got the 3 ingredients that you must use in your recipes. You ready for this? For your grain, you're gonna use Teff. For your produce, a winter squash. Specifically, I'd really like to see you use Kabocha squash. And for your spice, nutmeg. These 3 ingredients can be combined into some phenomenal recipes, so I want you to do something unique and outside the box. Surprise me, impress me, okay? But also make it simple enough for people watching at home so that they can make it themselves, because it's fall, it's winter, those ingredients are so perfect for this time of year. All right, may the best female chef win. I cannot wait to see what you put together here. Good luck. My stomach is already growling.
Awesome, thank you, Whitney. Well, I was so excited to get started cooking that I forgot to put my microphone on. I managed to find a Kabocha squash, which I'm really excited about because these are super delicious. I also managed to find both whole grain and Teff flour, and I always have nutmeg in my pantry, so I'm all ready to go. I find the hardest thing about squash is cutting it. I kind of have to rock it. And the safest way is to put your hand on top, because then you know you won't cut yourself. So there's the inside of our Kabocha squash. It's bright orange. As Whitney said, it's perfect for fall, and orange vegetables have lots of vitamin A and vitamin C, which helps boost your immune system. So as we get into cold and flu season, great to get squash like this in your diet. I'm going to scoop these seeds out with a spoon. You can save these seeds, just pop them out from the skin and then roast them. They do take a long time because Kabocha seeds are pretty fat. The thing I really love about Kabocha squash is the texture. It's so soft and flavorful. So it's kind of like butternut squash, but better. So if you can find it, it's definitely worth it. I put my hand on top of the knife so I don't cut my finger off. Because I don't think I would win a cook-off if I cut my finger off, right? Right. So to prep them for the oven, I'm just going to drizzle a tiny little bit of olive oil, then a little bit of sea salt, or I use herbamere, and then the best way to mix them in is to use your hands. Because what happens is you can spread it without using very much, and you want to coat the outside and the inside of your squash. So I used so little oil. You don't need to use very much, but a little bit is important because it will help it from drying out. So I think of it like sunscreen for my veggies. So put this in the oven. You can put it in about 350 and it'll take probably 30 minutes. Depends how big you've cut your chunks. And also if you want it to cook faster, pierce holes in it with a fork. I'm going to do that actually. You can just get really vicious with it and stab it. Okay, I've got my microphone on now, so hopefully you can hear me a little bit better. And while our squash is in the oven, baking and caramelizing and becoming delicious, I am going to get started working with the Teff. So I had quite the ordeal trying to find this, and if you have trouble finding it, hopefully you can find it in your health food store, or a lot of the major grocery stores are now carrying the Bob's Red Mill brand, and that's eventually where I found it, was on a shelf with some Bob's Red Mill stuff. But there are a lot of bulk stores that carry this, so people in Canada, you can look at Bulk Barn, you can find it, and for anyone who just can't find it locally, you can often order it online. So those are some options for finding Teff. Now Teff, there's a little description on here. Where is it? Okay, Teff is the smallest grain in the world. Originating in Africa thousands of years ago, it has long been an important food for highland Ethiopians who use it to make everything from bread to beer. If you've ever seen injera in Ethiopian restaurants, that's made from Teff flour. Now the rest of the world is catching on to the big potential of this tiny grain. With a mild, nutty flavor and lots of calcium, protein, iron, and fiber, whole grain Teff is a great addition to porridge, stews, pilaf, or baked goods. So it says it has 10% of your daily calcium, 10% of zinc, 20% of iron, and 25% of magnesium in a 1/4 cup dry. That's really good. That's really quite good. Okay, so what I want to do with my teff is make a pilaf. And what I wanted to do was take my nutmeg and add it to some curry powder and make a curried teff pilaf that I'm going to spoon onto my squash. And if you cut it just in half, you can actually stuff your squash and it'll look really pretty. But I'm using my toaster oven, so I'm going to do it a little bit more simply. All right, I'm going to start my pilaf off with some onion. So I'll just cut a couple slices off here. And some ginger, fresh ginger. If you don't have fresh, you could add some ground, but fresh is going to be super duper yummy. I'm going to start the pilaf off by toasting the dry spices. So I'm going to turn the gas on here, and then I'm going to do let's see, 1 teaspoon of curry powder. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Nutmeg has a very powerful flavor, so a little bit goes a long way. And then don't leave your spices alone because they're gonna heat up really quickly. All right, my spices look toasted. So what I'm gonna do is add some teff, and I'm gonna use 1/2 cup. Dry toasting like this will bring out the flavors of the food. So it'll bring out the flavor of the spices and it'll bring out the flavor of the teff. And as they said on the package, teff has kind of a nutty flavor, which is really nice for going with curries. Because it is so tiny, it will heat up quickly as well. What you want to look for is the teff toasting. So you might see a couple little grains pop, kind of like popcorn. So it'll look like really tiny popcorn in your pot. All right, I've had a couple poppers. You probably can't see them. There's one right there. There's one right there. Anyway, these are toasted really nicely, and it's time to add the onions and the garlic and toss them around. Now, most people, when they do a pilaf, will use oil, and they'll use it to toast the spices and the grain. But I like to toast them dry to bring out their natural flavors rather than coat them in oil. And then I'm gonna add some white wine to saute the onions and ginger rather than oil. Tastes awesome too, smells amazing, plus uses up the end of a bottle of wine that I didn't really like. So while that's softening, keep an eye and chop up a couple of carrots. You want to stir that every so often because it will tend to stick on the bottom of the pot. Onions have softened up over here, so I've added 1 cup of water. Stir it around to make sure anything that's stuck on the bottom comes up. Then I'm going to add a bit more herbamere and put the lid on and finish chopping my carrots. Okay, I've got my carrots chopped. They don't need to go in right away. I'm gonna let that cook for a little bit. Next I'm gonna do is some celery. And if you're not a fan of celery, a tip would be to just shave off the very back edge. That's where a lot of the bitterness is. And if you take that off, you might find that you like celery. Or at least don't hate it. I'm also gonna get an apple chopped up. This is a really small apple, so if you have a big apple, maybe use half. And then you can eat the other half while you cook. Teff cooks fairly quickly. It only takes about 15 minutes. It does have a tendency to stick to the bottom, so make sure you stir it every so often. And mine's looking almost done. So at this point, I am going to add my carrots, celery, and apple. And I'm also going to add some raisins. Just a little handful. A little bonus sweetness. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to stir that around, and I just want these veggies and fruit to soften up a little bit. So I was just checking in on our squash, which are done. You can test it by just taking that same fork that you stab them with and just pressing it in. And if it goes in softly, they are done. Done like dinner. Okay. I was also checking on our pilaf, which looks done, and I wanted to take a taste. You know, just to make sure that it's as awesome as I hope it's going to be. It's quite hot though. That's really good. It doesn't look very attractive, but it tastes amazing. Really nice spices and flavors coming together. So, what we're gonna do now is try to make it look prettier by taking some squash and spooning some pilaf on top. So I'm gonna pick a couple of these to put on my plate here. Let's see, what else do I want? This one. And why not 3? Make it like a triangle. I like things in 3s. Okay, and then I'm going to spoon some of our pilaf. See, it doesn't look terribly attractive, but I promise it tastes awesome. I'm gonna top this dish off with a few chopped cashews. Oh yeah. Can't beat cashews. Okay, moment of truth, taste test. Some good stuff on my fork here. I give that 2 thumbs up. 3 thumbs up. I wish you could taste this, but you can't until you make it. I'm gonna post the recipe with this so you can give it a try. Be sure to give a like or a comment, or both, to give a vote for me in our cook-off. You can go look at Candace's video if you really want to. I mean, if you feel like you really have to be fair about this. But be sure to vote for me. And if nothing else, go check out our fantastic judges channel, Eco Vegan Gal. She does wonderful work. She is talented, gorgeous, amazing, wise, all good things. So be sure to go check out her channel. And I'm looking forward to see who wins the cook-off. Candace, I am pretty curious what you got cooking up over there. Kabocha squash is just so good. I can eat it like watermelon. All right, I can't hold out. I have to go watch what Candace made because I'm just too curious.